Welcome to Real Estate Real World, where we talk to the movers, shakers, and leaders that are getting it done right now in the real estate industry and beyond. Your host is Marguerite Crespillo, and she started this podcast simply to talk to cool people about what's really happening in this crazy roller coaster ride of real estate. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and stay up to date on the newest stuff by adding yourself to the list at www.realestaterealworld.com. Now your host, Marguerite Crespillo.
Hello, everybody. It's Marguerite Crespillo, and welcome to Real Estate Real World, where we get to talk to some of the most incredible people around the world, in my personal opinion. And I'm always meeting new and exciting people that I learn fascinating stuff about. So we were even talking a little bit before the show, and I cannot wait to talk to our very next guest here joining me today, Jennifer Diepstraten, right? I got it right?
You got it.
She has quite a name, but, so I have a long name too. So I'm always trying to make sure I pronounce names correctly. I can't even say the word pronounce right today, huh? So welcome to the show. Let me read a little bit about you. Jennifer has 20 years experience in sales, relationship coaching, and communication studies. So she understands what it really takes to inspire people to take decisive action. I love it. As a result of her expertise, she sold over $14 million in products in 10 years in corporate sales, working for world-leading multi-million and multi-billion-dollar biotech and medical equipment companies. She left her highly lucrative corporate sales job to start her own business teaching high-end sales and sales training to coaches, trainers, healers, and niche service providers. Her one-call blueprint consultation system enabled her to triple her fees in her own heart-centered entrepreneurial endeavor in less than 6 months. I love that. Heart-centered entrepreneurial endeavor. I love that. The system she's created and teaches her students has enabled her to create a lifestyle business that's allowed her husband to retire from his career in home construction and work full-time with Jennifer. Jennifer holds a biopsychology degree from Vassar College and a master's of science in traditional Oriental medicine. Very cool. And you live, we were talking before the show, in one of my favorite places on the planet. You live down there in the San Diego area, near where my son lives in Carlsbad. I love that area. Like, how can you ever be miserable down there? You go, well, I'm sure you can, but you go down to the beach and everyone's like healthy for the most part. Lots of runners and people out walking and getting fresh air. It's fabulous.
It's hard to be unhappy here, really. It's very beautiful.
You got to work at it, huh? Isn't that funny? Well, so tell us a little bit about your background. How did you end up doing what you're doing now? I'd love to hear the story.
Well, in my business, I teach high-ticket selling. And when I first got into sales, it was because believe it or not, I was really shy when I was in college. And I remember thinking when I got out of school, I wanted to go into sales because it was literally the scariest thing I could think of to do. Yeah, I mean, some people jump out of airplanes, some people go bungee jumping. I decided to go into sales because talking to strangers was like petrifying to me.
Wow.
And especially trying to get them to buy something. So I went into sales and I had this, I started a pretty high level job. I was working in a biotech company. They moved me out to Chicago where I'd never been, didn't know anyone. And I was selling their most expensive equipment to scientists. And it was, it
Wow.
was scary and hard. But that's where I cut my teeth in sales. And what I realized, and some of the things I want to share today with you, is that when you ask the right questions, people sell themselves into what you have.
That is so
And
true.
because I was a shy person, it was much easier for me to ask questions than it was for me to talk. And so I kind of fell on that by default. And then over the years, I became a top seller in my companies. I worked for some very prominent biotech and medical diagnostic equipment companies. Did that for a number of years, sold many millions of dollars of stuff. And then one day I got this calling. I wanted to make a bigger difference. And so even though I loved at the time it was scientists, and I had a lot of scientists that were searching for the cure for cancer, and some of them worked in hospitals, amazing people, really important work. And I thought, I want to help the individual. Like, I want to help people who really make a difference for other people as individuals. Like, I could go into corporate coaching, corporate sales coaching, or I could work with individual people like coaches, consultants, real estate agents, insurance providers, people that their personal business, it's a personal business, not a corporate
Right.
business. It's a personal
Exactly.
business. And I thought that's where I want to make my difference with people. So I left my corporate life and I started this coaching company where I teach sales and I consult on sales systems and sales strategies for entrepreneurs.
So how crazy is that you decided to pick the scariest thing for yourself and that's what you went to do? I mean, most people, I would venture to say, do the complete opposite. They completely avoid the thing that is the scariest, right? Isn't that more typical than what you did?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. My husband and I both have this thing where we like to do scary things. And we're not adrenaline, well, he's an adrenaline junkie, but he climbed El Capitan, which was, 4 days up a rock face. I'm not that kind of adrenaline junkie. For me,
Right.
just talking to strangers is scary enough. Running my own business, having my three sons, like that's all. I get plenty of adrenaline that way. And yeah, and I love it. I love it. And I get the biggest kick when my clients can sell something that they couldn't sell before. Like they raise their fee, or they get a client that before they would have been afraid to approach, or they get a big contract that's bigger than the one that they'd ever had before because they've really mastered some skills in selling. Like for me, that's my adrenaline rush.
Wow. Well, it's funny. I have three sons as well. My husband had three children with his first wife, then we had three together, and five of those six children are boys. So yeah, one is a girl. So we say she was the perfect one. We got her right, and then we had boys.
All the rest are really dirty, right?
Oh, boys, I love them. I mean, especially now that my boys are now grown. My youngest are 20 and 22, and they're so much fun to hang out with now, but the stuff that boys do is just crazy. Like, I'm always amazed at the crazy things that they do. Like, that's the only word I can come up with right now is crazy. Just some of the
Because they're
stuff they do.
boys,
Yeah.
yeah. They're boys and not girls, so
Yeah.
I know. And do these crazy things, right?
Well, so I know that too. You mentioned that you've kind of transitioned into this high ticket sales. That's not necessarily what you were doing in the beginning, right?
Right. I mean, when I first left my corporate life, it was to start a relationship coaching company with my husband.
Oh
And that was, talk about crazy.
my.
I had a job where I was very well paid. I saw my manager two or three times a year. Um, and I left and I went to this world where I had no idea where to find clients. I had no team finding leads for me. I had no marketing department. It was, figure out what your logo is supposed to look like and go find some clients and feed your family. And when I did it at the time, we had two sons at the time. My youngest hadn't been born yet, and my husband was a stay-at-home dad.
Oh wow.
He had retired, like along the way, he'd retired from his construction work. He did home remodeling constructions. We had done some real estate deals, and I love real estate. That's one of the reasons I'm
Yeah.
on your show. Um, as a buyer and seller, investor, that kind of thing. And it was really, really challenging when we first started. But we started this relationship coaching because it was such a passion for us. And along the way, we got so I just pulled in my 15 years of knowledge selling high ticket, high end services,
All right.
and we were selling like private coaching to couples for thousands and thousands of dollars, even though they
Wow.
could go to a therapist for $60 or $80.
Right. Right.
And so my entrepreneur friends started asking me, "What are you doing? How do
Yeah.
you how do you sell your stuff so well?" And I kept saying, "Oh, I don't teach sales anymore." And finally after about a year, I was like, "Oh, maybe this is what people want. Maybe that's my gift. Maybe
That's your
that's what
calling.
people really need." And so I started our company teaching high ticket selling about 2.5 years ago.
So, what do you think is the main reason that people don't charge more for their services? I mean, I know what probably my issues are, but I'm curious what you see across the spectrum of people that you work with.
Yeah, so my clients are very particular. It's a particular problem. We basically have two problems. If I was to ask you to double your fee, so whatever your fee is right now, just double it in your mind, and then go out and make an offer to someone for that fee, what pops up for you?
I feel nauseous.
Yeah, I get that a lot. And what thoughts do you have when that comes into your mind?
I guess probably a couple things. First of all, is it who's going to pay that, right? Like who has the money to pay that, and can I provide enough value to where they would be willing to pay that?
Exactly. And that's exactly what happens. It's who's going to pay that? Where am I going to find those people? And is what I have really worth that much? Right? Is
Yeah.
it becomes a question of can I provide the value? And then I get a lot of other ones like, if I raise my fee, people will say to me, I don't want to raise my fee because I don't want to be that responsible for people's, right? Like it's almost like you become beholden. You have to go to their house and do their laundry or something if you charge them more. You know?
I don't know that I thought of it quite that way, but I probably did actually, where I feel like I'm responsible for their I feel that I would be responsible for their results.
Exactly, exactly. And the truth is, if you look at it, you're no more responsible for their result than you were at the lower number, but there's some sort of internal barometer of what that number is, that it's okay to be under versus over. And so a big part of being able to sell high-end services or raise your fee is to bring up that barometer of what is the right price, what is okay, what is providing the value. And it's amazing because when you elevate that, when your own barometer of the right price goes up, the right people show up. It's amazing. It's I mean, you think about the last time you raised your fee before.
Right.
It was at one point it was uncomfortable and then it became normal. So it's the
Right.
same thing. It's the same
Well,
thing.
what's
So there's that
interesting
piece.
to me is so I sell real estate. I'm a full time real estate agent, professional agent. I run a brokerage and then I run a training and coaching company. And on the real estate side, when I'm selling real estate, I have no problem charging what I'm worth. I know the value is there. Like I know that and this sounds egotistical, of course, and maybe that's part of the problem too. I know that I'm really good at selling real estate. I'm really, really good at that. Like there's no doubt in my mind I've closed 3,500 deals. I'm good at that. So I'm willing to charge pretty much anything on that end of it. But then when I get to this other side, right, which I still have all that street credit, so it doesn't really make any bit of sense.
Totally
Then
illogical.
it's completely illogical. And I'm saying this because I think that a lot of real estate agents who maybe don't have the same amount of street cred also go through that illogical sense of what they're worth and what they're not worth as well. I mean, I don't necessarily know that you have to have 100 years of experience and do a bazillion deals, or even for you, like relationship coaching. Can you coach somebody who's been married longer than you? Well, absolutely, right? Like, because they've got more experience in that arena doesn't mean they have more. Well, knowledge isn't the right word. I'm not sure what the right word I'm looking for, but
Expertise.
there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's the question. So there's a couple of things that go into being able to charge more, but we're right on one of those, which is definitely this idea of my own sense of the value I'm providing. And it doesn't seem to be logical at all.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too because for a lot of people, when it's a personal business, like if you're a real estate agent and a big part of what you're doing is you're selling you above and beyond, 50 other real estate agents, that our personal value comes into the equation, our own sense of our personal value, whereas it might be much easier to sell something that's not related to you, like recommend a good restaurant or sell a car,
Right.
right? So those things are not as personal. And for a lot of people who can sell gangbusters in other industries, when they come into real estate because it's a personal business, or they come into a coaching and consulting business because it's their intellectual property, that sense of the value that you can provide, it becomes much more difficult to discern and less logical.
So another thing that pops into my head as you're saying that is that like you feel sometimes like you need to help people, and if they can't afford it, you need to help them anyway, and that becomes a challenge. Like it's like, oh well, I don't have that much money to hire you right now, and so then you feel like, well, okay, well maybe I can do it for less, or you start negotiating, and I think that creates another set of challenges.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the flip side of the same coin, in a sense, like not valuing your service at the level that you need to or should or want to. Um, and also feeling like you need to help the little guy, that keeps our prices low a lot of times. And also, um, not not knowing what to do with those people that you want to help so much. A lot of us, we want to help people, so we want to give it away, but pretty soon, if you give it all away, you have no business. It's just a
Right.
hobby, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so all of those things are going on in our minds when we're making our offers, and if you don't get all that sorted out, usually you can't close a sale.
Okay, so I think too, before we talked, you mentioned in figuring out that sale, like I guess what does that look like in a way, and how can a conversation like that go? I don't know if I'm making any sense right now. Um, so you want to sell your product, or you're in real estate, so you want to be able to charge a certain fee, right? And determining what that fee is, like how do you even really determine what that fee is, and what value should be associated with it? Like, I think I got to have pages and pages and pages of value to show somebody that it's worth it. And I don't know if that's obviously my own stuff, not logical either. So how do you determine what your pricing should be and what you need to bring to the table?
Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of times we look for external things to help us assign a value, but the price range is the lowest person in your market is the bottom, and as much as you can imagine is the top. And that's kind of it. So somewhere between rock bottom, the cheapest that anyone in your industry does,
And
and
outrageous.
and outrageous is the top. And so where do you pick it? So what I like to do, I like to play a game with myself and with my clients.
Okay.
And I don't mean game like frivolous, but kind of like to challenge ourselves, which is you start with the highest number that you're comfortable with,
Okay.
and you sell it 3 times, and then you raise your price. Simply, well, one, because it makes you more money,
Right.
but two, it also expands your own sense of value, and it makes you deal with and get through all that mental garbage about that it's not worth it, and you become a more confident person and a more attractive person because you are bigger,
Right.
because you faced the fear, walked through it, and grew yourself. It's pretty sexy, actually.
Wow. Well, the sexiest thing on the planet is confidence. I say that all the time.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my
yeah.
favorite thing. That's what's sexy is confidence. Walk into, and that's why I fell in love with my husband. He was, extremely confident, or you could say cocky, extremely confident. Walking in the door and thought he was all that in a bag of chips, and it worked.
Yeah, and there's the female version of that, right?
Right.
It's like you can come in and be like, that's what the price is,
Right.
and
And
that's
leave it
what
at
it
that.
is.
Right. And
And
so,
and people are like, okay, and they pay, right? And not every buyer is going to come and pay. Some people are not a match for you, but the ones that have been looking for the real deal, the person that can really deliver and that they're willing to pay more, you become their person.
do you think that there's a difference in ability for women versus men? Or because, like, what came up when you were saying that, when you said you just say this is the price, I started thinking, I bet that I'm talking them out of the sale, like, because I can't shut up sometimes, right? So I keep talking, and I'm talking them out of the sale, or talking myself out of the sale.
I don't think there's a difference in ability or capability. It's just training. It's just training.
Okay. So I mean,
So you can
obviously.
make more than all the guys. It's okay.
Well, I like that. Well, the thing that I like too, the interesting thing about the real estate industry, here's my personal opinion. First of all, 65% of the real estate agents across the country are women. So a higher percentage of real estate agents in the industry are women. Yet the fascinating thing is that about 98% of the trainers, teachers, and coaches are men.
We need some ladies up there, ladies.
We do. We definitely do. We need some. And so I wonder why that is. I guess that's kind of my question. Why? I don't know the answer to that, but I wonder why there are more men coaches and trainers than women. Do you think that's just an industry thing, or do you think overall?
No, I think most in a lot of industries, and there's more men in those roles. For I don't know why I haven't studied that. What I do know is that I mostly have women clients. I have a few men, but a lot of women because uh, it's hard to find a good model or example of a woman being powerful around money and selling in any industry. It's just, I remember when I worked at my last corporate job, I was always in the top 1 to 5 people out of 50 in sales. But you know how many women there were on the entire sales team? Like five.
Wow.
90% of the people were men, and then there was me and Jessica, and we were always like 1 and 2 in the company. So I
Wow.
don't know why it is, but it also seems to be in the higher ticket sales that you see more men predominantly. Don't know why. All I know is when you study with me, your sense of your own value grows, and then you can step out and lead, I think, in a bigger way.
So, what do you find to be? We talked a little bit about at the beginning the things that hold people back, right? It's the biggest thing is their own fear, their own opinion of what they're worth. So, how do you help somebody get through that process? I mean, is it a lengthy process? Is it a just quit your complaining and go do it? Is it like sometimes
all that stuff. Like we're gonna end the interview now. You're gonna go make that offer and you're done. That doesn't work, right?
No.
Yeah. So I have a process that I use. It's something that I've actually cultivated over years and years of selling, and it's now what I have in my process that I teach people. Uh, there's a couple different things that have to happen. One, your own sense of value has to go up. And I could sit here all day long and tell you how valuable you are,
Right.
but you're probably not going to believe me,
Right.
right?
You have to
At the
believe
end
it
of the
within.
day, you're going to try to, you might chicken out when it comes to make that higher level offer. But two things do have to happen. One, your own mindset or sense of value has to go up, and you have to be able to communicate in real terms to the other person why they should pay you. Both of those things have to happen because, if you think you're great but you can't communicate why, again, no sale, right? So two things, the mindset and the communication.
So let's talk about the communication part for a little bit. Because, obviously this is a counseling session for Marguerite today, apparently. But that was never the intent, right? We're just talking about it. But I don't think that I ever struggle with confidence. I don't have an issue with that. Like, I know I'm good at what I do. But I do believe that where many struggle is that how do you communicate that to other people so that they see that value without, I think for me, it's like, how do you do that without feeling like you're just like bragging and tooting your own horn? Like my grandma used to call me, it's probably where it came from. My grandma used to call me fancy pants because I thought I was fancy pants all the time, right? So when I would say things like that, she's like, oh, who do you think you are, fancy pants, So I'm sure that's where some of that crap comes from. But, it's all goes back to your childhood. It's all your parents' fault. But
Yeah, and nobody likes to listen to someone brag on
Right.
themselves and
Right.
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 So you can't really do it that way. So I'm going to give you just a sneak peek into a process that I use with people, and this is one of
Perfect.
the things that we go through. And so you've probably when people think, okay, I want to be able to communicate what I do, we go through marketing courses, right? Or we think, okay, well, what's my unique selling proposition, or what's special about me? And usually we come up with a sentence that we like sort of well, or we have our 30-second elevator pitch. But then when you dig a little deeper, there's not much else to say, right? Other than, well, there's this testimonial and that case study, and this is what I did for that person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a way to uncover more depth that's actually already there. Your value is really, really deep, but most people don't need to know how to tap into the well.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to use this. The best way to describe this is through an example, a
Okay.
story.
All right.
Okay. So imagine I've got a living room full of toys, which I do.
Right. With boys.
So my kids are 2, 5, and 14.
Right? Oh
my
my goodness.
So imagine I take the toys and I'm going to put them on my driveway for a garage sale.
Okay.
Okay. And I've got to put a price tag on the toys. And I look and I'm like, well, $200. All right. That's your current price. Right?
Okay.
That's your relationship to your current price. You kind of eyeball it. You're like, oh, these are great toys, $200. or whatever the percentage or the dollar amount is for you.
Right.
All right. Now, I'm going to go through what I call my quantum benefits process. And I look at the pile of toys and all I see is a bunch of toys. But when I look closer, I see Legos. And I start pulling out Legos and I put them in a pile.
Legos are worth $1 bazillion.
Exactly. Right. And then I look back in my pile and I see, oh, dinosaurs, rocks, and trees. So I have all boys, right?
Yeah,
So
I get it.
pull out the dinosaurs and the rocks and the trees, put them in a pile. Then I look back at my original pile, Hot Wheels cars and Hot Wheels tracks. So I pull those out and I keep going until I've got 5 piles of toys.
Okay.
Now I look back at the Legos and I'm going to put a price tag on these things because I'm selling it at a garage sale. How much are the Legos worth, really?
Right.
Well, I think about what I paid for them. All of the wonderful times that I had building with my kids, all of the Millennium Falcon that's mixed in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I realize, even at a garage sale, this pile just by itself is probably worth $200.
Right.
Then I look at the dinosaurs, $200. Hot Wheels cars, $200. So suddenly I've got 5 piles. Suddenly I've got 5 piles each worth $200. I've got $1,000 worth of value on my driveway,
Wow.
whereas a few minutes ago I only had 200.
Yeah.
Now, what did I not do? Okay, I did not build anything.
You didn't change anything, really.
Right. I didn't go on extra ride-alongs with my clients. I didn't even find the instruction manuals. Right? I didn't do anything except for I saw the unique and specific value of what was in my pile. Now I see $1,000. So what I'm saying to you is you're not going to divide your service up into individual piles and piecemeal it out and say, well, if you want this service from me, it's this much money.
Can you hang
if
on
you
one
want this
sec?
service, you're not going to do that.
Can you hold on a sec? I got a cough
Yeah.
really bad. I don't know, something just went in my throat. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Write down where I can edit it out. 35. Oh my goodness. Hold on a sec.
You okay?
I haven't coughed in days.
You're getting excited about your new higher pricing.
I know, I was like, wait a minute, what is she saying? Hold on a sec.
You're following the Lego story.
All
And then I'll
right.
bring this back around.
Okay, go ahead.
You good?
Mhm.
Good? Okay. So what I'm not talking about is that you're going to piecemeal out your service. Like, you're not going to take your current service and break it into little pieces. That is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is recognizing the unique benefits of what you have and what you offer. You have more than one. You really have 4 or 5 major benefits. Every person I've worked with has 4 or 5 major benefits.
Right.
And when you can pull them out as threads in a sweater and see them for the unique and specific nature that they have, like my Lego pile, suddenly your own sense of value grows.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, when you sit down and look at it, I mean, same thing. Like, you can go to a garage sale where it's just like, take it all for, $500 or something. And that's why, what does that show? The Storage Wars, like that Storage Wars show is so popular because they're just buying whatever's in there. And then sometimes they get in there and there's all these chunks of gold, right? Little pieces that they can sell. And I would agree with you is that we all have that within us, but we can't see it because we're overwhelmed by the enormity of it, do you think, in a lot of ways?
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times our value is so much like right at the end of our nose. It's who we naturally are that we don't recognize the value. It's like my story where I said people were coming up to me and saying, Jennifer, can you teach me how to sell? And how do you sell high ticket services? And I thought, doesn't everybody know that? Why should I teach that? I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? No. See, so there is stuff that you're doing. So you've got this amazing, you've sold 3,500 deals. Now, I would bet you, I am absolutely sure that if we dug into this, we would find 4 or 5 very specific and unique things that you do, or traits that you have, or benefits that you deliver in a way that only you do. this is also the thing that will differentiate you from everyone else who sells real estate or every other broker, because nobody does it the way you do, really, really, because your unique selling proposition, if you will, is not one thing. It's this constellation of five things, 4 or 5 quantum benefits that makes you unique. It's like a fingerprint.
Wow.
And that's the key, because when you see your fingerprint, it's, oh my gosh. I had a gal that she was at selling business consulting, and she was selling $3,000 for 3 months of business consulting with her. She had a really nice business, not a lot of overhead. And when we did this process, all of a sudden she thought, oh my gosh, I didn't see the value I was bringing to my clients who are doing $2 and $3 million in their businesses. She raised her fee to 50 grand
Wow.
and started selling it, because she could see those threads in a new way that before they were so close, it was right under her nose. She couldn't see it.
So I remember years ago going to, have you heard of Strategic Coach?
Yeah.
Dan Sullivan was Strategic Coach. I remember
Absolutely.
I went to an exercise with him, and they had us send out a letter, an email, to 10 people that we know. It could be family, friends, whatever. And the email, the question was simply, what do you think my greatest strengths are? And, you feel so uncomfortable sending that out, and you worry, what are people going to say? And then you start to take it personal and they don't send it back. You're like, well, maybe they don't think I have any strengths, And at the end of the day, I got them back, and I was so humbled, first of all, and couldn't believe what people saw in me. Like, at that time, I didn't even see it in myself. And it was really fascinating. It was fascinating in the way that people responded and exactly what they said. And then we had to take out of all those letters kind of what our top, the top 10 was. But it was such a fascinating exercise because, like you said, I think you can't see it yourself. You can't see within yourself.
Right. And even when you can see it, the words to articulate it can be really difficult.
Yeah.
Really, when I do this process one-on-one with people, I do it in a couple different formats. When I do it privately with people, I could ask people this. I could ask one of my clients for an hour about their business and what they like and their childhood and their stories. And 59 minutes, I tell you, 59 minutes of that stuff that they tell me is going to be a snoozer.
Right.
I'm like, okay, try not to snore out loud. And then 1 minute will be a phrase or a couple of words that,
that's it.
What did you say?
Yeah.
And that piece, if you just said that and left the other 59 minutes out, will hook people's attention and want to know more. The thing is, you need more than just one phrase. You need a whole collection of them. So it's a process of gathering up those important phrases and then saying them. So I'll give you an example in my business, since now you're getting to know me a little bit. One of my quantum benefits is I help people know what to say and when to say it, so their ideal clients say yes.
Oh.
Okay. So notice how we've been talking a lot about being able to communicate your value. Well, guess why? Because my quantum benefit is, one of mine is, I know how to help people know what to say and when to say it, so their ideal client says yes.
And you said that at the beginning, when you ask the right questions.
That's another one of my quantum benefits is, if you want to catch people's attention, you need to ask the right questions. So guess what my gifts are? Asking really, really great questions. So one of the things I work with my clients on is writing their sales script, because you've got to ask the questions at the beginning of the conversation. Well, what have you tried before? And who have you sold a house with before? And what were the good things about it? And what were the things that you wish had gone better? And when do you want to move? And you've got to ask all of those questions. And if you ask really well-constructed questions, people naturally gravitate to you and end up selling themselves. That's one of my gifts.
It's so funny that you say that, because when I was trying to think through what I do differently or better than other agents when it comes to selling real estate, not necessarily on the other side, is I'm really good at asking questions. And I just thought that I think everybody has that skill or has that talent.
No. Well, and probably in the way you do it, it's a very, there's an essence about it, or an energy about it, that you ask in a very, I I don't know what it is, but in a way that allows a person to feel comfortable.
Okay.
Okay. So when you uncover that, I'm not sure what it is because we haven't done it, but I'm guessing that I mean, you're very easy to talk to. So maybe you're asking questions that make people feel like they're heard
Right.
and make them feel comfortable. And that's a particular skill set that you have. To turn that skill set into a quantum benefit, we want to define it a little bit more, and then we want to name it.
Mm.
We want to name it. So a quantum benefit, just to tie a bow on this whole thing, a
Okay.
quantum benefit it's unique, it's highly specific, like very specific words,
Okay.
and attractive, highly attractive to your ideal client.
I'm writing this down.
Yeah. So specific, unique, and highly attractive. And if you can, you want to name that thing. So guess what I did? I named my quantum benefits.
Quantum benefits. I love it.
Right? Right? I have a 4 must ask questions process where I teach people how to ask questions. So when you see what it is, it's like you name the Legos. It's not just a pile of blocks that you stick together that have these
Right.
little bumps.
Right.
They're called Legos.
Right.
TM. It now turns into a really marketable and valuable. You've taken a concept and turned it into a concrete idea that people can buy. They can wrap their minds around it, and then they can buy it.
So tell us about you have the one call blueprint, and then you also are offering a free ebook for our listeners as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, so I think you're going to love this. So One Call Blueprint is my consultation system where I work with people to learn how do you design the questions, how do I pull out my own quantum benefits, how do I raise my own sense of value. That's where we do that, is in my One Call Blueprint process. The book is called The High Ticket Selling Revolution.
Mm.
I have to sneeze. Hold on.
Oh. We're both got like little allergies or something going on today.
Yeah. It's called The High Ticket Selling Revolution because one of the things that I've noticed recently, I've been selling for a long time, and what I've noticed, especially now with so much sales being done on the internet, is that people, the old model of selling is dead.
Right.
That's what I talk about in the book. And that people are really too savvy to be taken in by some of the old ways that people were taught to sell.
Right.
Like the slick and that kind of stuff. People are too savvy. They need to feel that you're real.
Right.
So you've got to be able to sell, be real, authentic, and have the skills to close. So I go into that in the book. It's 9 secrets to increase your fees and magnetically attract ideal clients.
Wow. And we're going to give a copy of that away to our listeners, right? They can download the free ebook. It's an ebook, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, you can download it for your listeners. It's a free copy, so they can grab the ebook and
awesome.
read
And
away.
we'll have that available on the show notes and on our website too, where you guys can learn more about her. So as we wrap up a little bit today, tell us what you think is the first action step somebody needs to take with this. Like what's some takeaways that people could get from the show today that can really change the way they think about this, and then of course they have the opportunity to reach out to you.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is make a list of all the benefits that people get from working with you. Not the features, not the, I give them the 10-page brochure, but what's the benefit of that thing? What's the result or the outcome or the what's in it for them when I do that thing? And make a comprehensive list. Just write and write and write and write all of the benefits that you can, because when they're written down, you'll start to see more value.
Well, I think that is huge. And I like you differentiated between benefits versus like the items, right? You said as opposed to the features, right? Mm-hmm. And I just think that's a great way to really look at it, because I do think that sometimes you get caught up in what are all the features. Like I know even on the real estate side, people get caught up in their 47 bullet point marketing system or something goofy like that, right? And I want to say to them all the time, look, it doesn't matter what your marketing is. Like you have to have the skill behind it to implement that and to be able to help people get through that process, right? So that's where your benefits start to lie, is in really paying attention to what those benefits are.
Exactly. And you're spot on. That's absolutely true, because you can have I mean, I could have fancy words and all this great marketing stuff, but if I can't deliver and have my own sense of that value and really know what the skill is that I'm talking about, then it's just words on a piece of paper.
Well, I think that was worth just the time that we got to talk today. I mean, this has been a really fascinating conversation, and I have a feeling we could probably spend an entire 2 days talking
Yeah, we
over
could.
and over and over about this. And I'm gonna have to come by and visit you down in the San Diego area because I'll be down there over the next few months. I'd love to connect with you. So, well, thank you so much for being on our show today. And we are going to post a link to her book what's the name of your book again?
It's the High Ticket Selling Revolution.
High Ticket Selling Revolution. And she is generously giving you guys a free copy of this ebook today. And we will have it in our show notes and available so you can get to her website and all her information about her website. So thank you so much for being on the show today. This was genuinely a great conversation, and people definitely need to reach out to you and see what they can do to see their inner value. I know I am guilty of all of those things that you said, so we may have to talk more about that.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Marguerite.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on Real Estate Real World. Please go ahead and subscribe on iTunes or Podbean, and be sure to write us a great recommendation so people get the word out there about Real Estate Real World. Thanks again for joining us today, and go out and make it a fantastic day.
Thank you for joining us today on Real Estate Real World, where we talk with masters and leaders in real estate and beyond on how we can raise the bar in our industry. Please subscribe over on iTunes. And while you're there, be sure to give us a review. Your reviews encourage us and help others find our podcast. For show notes and hot topics on what's going on right now in our real estate industry, hop on over to www.realestaterealworld.com and add your name to our email. Thanks again for listening. And go out there, be a part of the elite masterclass in raising the bar on the real estate industry.